What's going on, everybody? Grab your mochas, grab your lattes, your cappuccinos, whatever the hell you're drinking. Settle on down in the coffee shop. It's your host for today, Jobbers and Goons. I'm taking on you guys on a wild adventure that will end up in several parts because, quite frankly, there's a lot of material to cover and a lot of ideas to process. So, to do this, I kind of want to start off with an important section of the scaling for Marvel Cosmology. I've done some, explained videos on here where I talk about cosmologies, for example, with Harry Potter. And I'm going to do so with Marvel. Start that off is the classic era. A lot of the greatest feats we've seen, including for the likes of Odin, Doctor Strange, all these important characters, they often occurred in this era, like in the classic times. So what we're going to do today is observe the cosmology and what we know about it during that time. Look at just how high it scales by reviewing every layer. And at the end, you should have a sense of what the classic Marvel cosmology was shaped like, how it scaled, and how strong it would be. I hope you guys enjoy this. And if you want to see part 2 to this, where I cover modern times and what that scales to, smash the like button. Check out my main channel, Jobbers and Goons, and if you want to say your favorite character or topic covered on this channel or my main channel, hit me up on Discord to talk about purchasing. But without further ado, let's get started on this wild adventure. Now, first thing to talk about is reality, the first layer. How I'm going to structure this is essentially I'm going to go through every layer, how I perceive them, and I'm going to give you a low ball and a high ball, or the high ball is more so going to be like mid to high end, but there's also going to be like a safer end for you to observe and give you guys the idea of the power range of each level of the structure. And so let's observe reality. Low end, safe end, I think in classic era is infinite 4 to 5D. So we know that space itself in the universe back then was called infinite and endless. Time itself was called infinite and endless. All of this consisting within just the universe alone. We know reality itself, at one point in the classic era, consisted of infinite stacks, layers of different universes or realities. So there actually was even more further credence to it either being infinite 4D or 5D, depending on how you look at space and time. I think safe is infinite 4D, but also 5D right there is acceptable for just the first layer, which is universe or reality. On the high end, you could say high hyper if you interpret the stacking as like transcendences, then that would be infinite transcendences or infinite dimensions, going off the baseline infinite 4D. So, and sorry if you guys hear my dog in the background, but that would be like possibly high hyperversal for reality, but that would be a super high end to me. I think the infinite 4 to 5D range is a lot more comfortable for just layer 1 reality. Now, once you get past dimensions or the infinite layers of existence in the classic era, which like even if you lowball reality to 5D, there would be infinite stacks anyway. So eventually you get past the dimensions. When you do, you get to a layer called Chaos or Limbo. This one was rather interesting, popped up a few times. It just isn't a major factor because nothing hangs out there. And what I mean by that is consider this layer of Limbo almost like a gateway to outside of dimensions, right? So it's like the gate of nothingness that you go through before you get to the next layer. Pretty cool. We saw obviously Classic Strange experience this. This would either be high hyper or low outer. That would be the range. High hyper being it's beyond all dimensions, but you could argue it's not yet to the confirmed outer versal. It's just beyond the concept of space and time. However, on the high end, obviously, if you're mirroring like high hyperversal realities, This would at this point be obviously low outer to outer on the high end. For me, I think high hyper to baseline is acceptable. Really depends on how you view chaos itself. Now, buckle in, because and smash the like button. Marvel power scaling fans, even at the baseline, for here on out, the realms we will be talking about at this point in the video are outerversal. So if you're taking notes, if you're just listening intently, know at this point, for scaling purposes, I consider these, even at their low ends, their low terms, being outerversal in nature. So let's get into this. Next would be like dark realms or beyond realms. These realms would be realms like Dormammu's realm or embodied Dormammu's realm. The interesting thing about Dormammu's realm in the classic era is it's directly described as a reflection of Dormammu's power, the embody that is. So it directly is him. This realm cannot be described with human language. So mathematics, equations, dimensionality, applying philosophy, applying mathematical terms, all these things, even stuff like technically like Aleph numbers and all that shit, it can't possibly encompass a realm like Dormammu's dimension. This realm at least is baseline outerversal. Mid, it would be low to mid, and at the high end, given chaos was low to just regular outer, this would be at least outer to even mid. But yeah, Dormammu's realm is stupidly broken in realms akin to it in this era. And another interesting thing to note about this realm, realms like Dormammu's, is there is an endless, infinite layer of nothingness or nowhere before you even get there. So combined with that, the highball I definitely would say is mid-outer, giving the infinite layers stacking after already being low outer. I would say with the nowhere scaling in mind as a layer coming after and before Dormammu's realm, it's comfortably, like I said, low outer. So from this layer and considering nowhere as a factor, let's move on to the next. Now, what also makes this layer terrifying in scaling potential is that realms like Dormammu's have infinite layers of like transcending layers within its own realm. And between them and other realms, there's endless infinite voids. It's just so many uses of constant expansion of just this layer alone that, like I said, you could easily argue here that realms of this nature would be at least mid-outer, which is just nuts. This would make up a set of infinity, or one of the embodies of infinity in classic era, and then there would be another set of infinity beyond that. This set of infinity, or the next layer of infinity, is beyond Dormammu's infinity and beyond even his realm, as he can't see it, but yet he knows all of his realm and all of its existence. So like he would know this if it was to that layer, and he just doesn't. This infinity thus should be above Dormammu's realm. This infinity has infinite layers inside of it that stack and an endless distance in between them. So how would we observe this layer of infinity, this next embody? I think the low end would be mid-outer. This is because you can at least argue low to mid for Dormammu's realms. There's endless layers in between before you get here. And then you get here. You could argue mid at that point. For mid to high end, you would be getting into probably high outer versal, and obviously high end being high outer versal at this point. Now, just for the sake of scaling nerds, from here on out, everything's buckle in again, smash the like button again if you haven't. Everything's going to be at least high outer. Okay, from after this, it's all high outer. So what I'm going to do is, since obviously we're going to be at high outer and going beyond, I'm just going to say layer into high outer, or layers into high outer. Someone in the comment section pin down below how many layers I say we're into it, or a guesstimate based on how I describe it. But yeah, we will be getting into high outer versal obviously at this point. So I hope you guys are excited to progress upon the cosmological line. Now the next layer would be the layer of embody eternity that helps make up the cosmology. Now this layer, it transcends completely in a fathomless nature anything we've seen before. The reason we know this is Doctor Strange himself actually took a trip to this realm, and when he did, this realm exploration of sorts, and by the way, sorry if it sounds like I cut out, I had to pause real quick, but all this, like up to eternity, is completely fathomless, and the exploration itself and the magic used is so crazy to get here that it's actually stated if the reader saw like what magic took place, if they saw the incantation in the procedure, they would have died. Like, we literally couldn't view it, which is crazy to think about, and it obviously narrative transcendence notes there and all that, even within the cosmology, which is pretty fascinating to see. But eternity, like I said, Strange had been through every layer prior to this and said this was transcendental and fathomless in comparison, which is wild to see. And we hadn't seen a comparison like that since reality, which could be like 5D, to even Dormammu's realm, which could be argued mid-outer, but it, you know, lowballed low-outer. So with that big of a gap, if we applied it to both here, this would be comfortably high outer on the high end for Eternity's realm, but on the baseline, it's at least high outer, no doubt about it. Now, at this point, I want to give just a quick run through on what the cosmology is looking like and what layers we've covered. There's reality, chaos, and then obviously like nowhere's a part of that. Then realms like Dormammu's, the next set of infinity, and then eternity. Alright, so that's like the layers and breakdown so far. Now, in terms of where you get like outer versal on there, it's at least at minimum Dormammu's realm, but and that layer, but arguments are there for chaos in the nowhere layer, so that's definitely possibly outer versal right there, but safely Dormammu's realm, and then high outer, where it gets safe there even as a baseline, would be Eternity's realm. So having kinda, and hit the like button if you haven't already, having kinda paused there to review every layer so far. Another important note for all my adventurers on this cosmological trip, at this point you'd make the solid argument, and it's most likely, so I'll put my foot down on it, in the classic era sense, the end of, quote, creation, right? Like, creation, at this point, eternity, infinity would be the cutoff, because we know after this, the things that reside beyond were not allowed in creation because they were a threat to it. So, at this point, creation would stop at that eternity layer. Alright, everyone, we're daring to be great on this one, because obviously the scaling community used to think like Marvel was maybe high hyper to outer. We're getting wild with this one, and we're going beyond creation because there's even more in the cosmology. Next is the beyond nameless dimensions. These dimensions in this layer resides outside of embodied eternity. This layer was not actually revealed until after the death of embodied eternity. The death of embodied eternity resulted in the destruction of both him and Dormammu's realm, and Eternity's realm was no more. Eternity's realm served as like the barrier for creation that allowed the nameless dimensions to be accessed after. Next, and obviously right there, at this point, we're just layers in the high outer. That's probably a layer or two in the high outer. Even on the low end, high end, mid to high end, it's probably like third or fourth layer in the high outer. Next, we have world beyond worlds, time beyond time. This is where Zom was sealed away. It is not a part of the nameless dimensions because it has to transcend the nameless dimension. Zom was sealed outside of eternity, so this makes sense. And Strange had never been here before, yet he had traversed the nameless dimensions. And the world beyond worlds, time beyond time is obviously named, so it would contradict that. So at that point, even Zom and his realm and where he resided at that point cosmologically, that area and that portion of the cosmology is at least a few layers baseline into high outer. And then mid to high end, it would be several layers in the high outer versal, which is crazy to think about. Also, the layers within here are countless in nature, which is crazy. This is also another set of infinity. And Doctor Strange says it's impossible and trackless compared to all realms prior observed. This would be, at that point, several layers in the high outer. I mean, man, shit's getting crazy, but this is a layer of infinity that is needed and shown to like be the barrier before you get to another important realm, with that realm being embodied living tribunal realm. It is boundless and a void in comparison to everything before. Not much is really given on it. It's not that high detailed. It would at least be several layers in the high outer versal, of course, but it's not that heavily detailed of a layer at this point. But obviously it's beyond creation, which makes sense, as Tribunal is the judge across all planes of existence of creation. And like I said, Strange said it was a void and boundless in nature compared to everything seen before, and Zom was terrified of Tribunal. Next, we have the Veil of Nothingness. This layer reaches the outside of embodied living Tribunal's realm. They consider this so transcendental in nature that it's, quote, separation of real and not real. This has to be beyond because Strange can't even see it and has never experienced it, yet he's experienced every layer before, and every layer before has been demonstrated from other comic characters as well. He also, like I demonstrated on Tribunal's realm, had experienced the power of LT's realm and its nature, yet had never experienced this. True death should, or like embodied death, I should say, the significant embody, should reside around here, as everything outside of this is beyond embodies death. Next would be the dream dimension. This dimension is called imagination and is very specifically noted as being beyond death itself, obviously having to be transcendental to the layer prior in order to achieve this. It has no direction in comparison to everything else prior shown before. What can't be real beneath it is real here. So every like possibility or just all the infinite, it's like so high. We're so high. Listen, everybody pause on this adventure. We're so high into high outer versal, it's not fucking funny anymore. Like it's ridiculous. We're almost running out of descriptors. And they struggle with that as well in the classic era when they got into the deep end of the cosmology. But this would just scale so high in comparison to everything else that it's almost described as if having as big of a gap between it as the layers had before the first layer. So this is, I know some people use like boundless tier, I guess, but I don't think there's layers of boundless tier, but fuck it, let's break some rules. This is so crazy above everything else, it should be almost like boundless, which is nuts. But it, at base, at low end, you would call this massively high outer. And what's even crazier about this is obviously we know that beyond, like somewhere beyond this, there would be layers where the true cosmological beings exist, but we didn't see it. It's possible they also resided at this layer, as we never saw who exactly existed there, but it's quite possible that layer in the classic era possibly contained true form abstracts. We don't really know, but we know for sure that there's at least one more layer beyond this, as Doctor Strange, Classic Strange, had explored all facets of creation and existence in its entirety. We had seen every layer, but Beyonder was beyond that in the classic era. So we know that at worst, Beyonder was high outer, just being beyond all these layers of existence. Given that we know creation itself, even if you say, so if we lowballed Beyonder's realm and how it would fit in this landscape, it at least has to be outside of existence or creation, which caps at eternity. So it would be at worst still high outer. But if you said it's beyond everything I just showed you on the cosmological landscape, it would be massively into high outer. But anyways, guys, let me know what you think of the classic cosmology. Again, some modern era writers changed the cosmology, added to it, merged some things, deleted some things, just kind of ignored some things. Some things became a lot more significant. For example, the world tree became a lot more significant later than it was in the classic era. So that will be discussed in the modernized version. But if you guys want to see a take on the modern Marvel Cosmology, smash the like button and I will do so. This was a super fun video. Shout out to Genius and his brother for requesting it. I hope you guys got just got a good sense of how the cosmology scales, every layer, and how strong everything is. I enjoyed making this video. If you like content like this, make sure you're subscribed and check out my main channel, Jobbers and Goons. I enjoyed making the video. And yeah, hope you understand better how the cosmology scales now and how everything in the classic era, probably up to like the 80s, 90s, applied in scaling. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. It's been your host for the coffee shop today, Jobbers and Goons. I'm going to get y'all out of here. Thank you for coming on this adventure with me, and I will see y'all later. Peace.